was born again, because this story has a reason. Like, did you guys all realize that we were born for such a time as this?
Yes. Yes.
We are. We're all born at a specific moment in time for a specific reason. Because we all have a specific purpose, right? And which is unique, important, and special. I always tell people we all have a different, God wants to do something through each and every one of you. And so for me, like, you guys kind of heard a little bit my story of how I got born again in 2006, but I'm going to jump around here, and I'm going to start even before I got born again, because even before we know God, God already knows us, right? Giselle was saying he chose us, right? So even before we come to know him, he already has a plan. We don't know him yet. I didn't know God, but God knew me, and he knew exactly what he was doing with me. Like, he was putting me with people and doing things in my life that I had no idea what he was doing, because I didn't know him. But in 1987, I'm going to start my story in 1987, because that's when I graduated from university. And when I graduated from university, I graduated with a commerce degree. Okay, I did my first year of university in the science faculty, but I realized that I'm going like, why am I in science? Like, what am I going to do with a science degree of 3 years? When I get out of university, I wanted something where it would be practical. I could get a job right away. So after a year of science, I went over to the commerce faculty. I had some friends there, and I decided to switch over to commerce. So I did my commerce degree, but I'm a numbers person. I'm not a person who likes to read and write. I'm more a numbers person. So I did a lot of accounting and finance and things like that. But in my last year of university, I had to write a marketing exam. And if I didn't pass that marketing exam, I would not be able to get my commerce degree. So of course, that was my weakness. Was this writing and strategizing and all this and writing this down on paper. It was a 3-hour exam. Well, I passed this exam by the skin of my teeth. I got through it. I got a D. I got through it. Got my commerce degree. So I was happy. But there was the provincial government came on campus to recruit 10 people. We were about 300 who graduated. So they came to recruit 10 people who they could train to be small business consultants, IT, information technology. Because back in 1987, the personal computers were just coming out, okay? It was brand new. So they wanted to help these small and medium-sized businesses to automate their accounting, their word processing, and all that kind of stuff. So I applied, but I didn't think I'd get the job, because you got 300 people. Well, I don't know if everyone applied, but a lot of people wanted it. It was a good job, good paying job, and they were going to train us up to be IT specialists. My gosh, that was the beginning of IT, the beginning of the information technology world. So what an opportunity. Well, they had come on campus the year before. So they started this program a year before I graduated, and my cousin got recruited. My cousin, super smart, okay? So they hired him, and they loved him. So when I came around the second year of the program, they said, "Oh, Roger's cousin, well, let's bring her in." But I'm not Roger, I'm not my cousin. So anyways, I get the job. There's 10 of us, and they paired us up. Okay, so I was paired up with one of the fellows, the smartest of the bunch. God knew that he needed to pair me up with the smartest, because I was probably the dumbest of the gang. So it was good because he did all the work. Like, we would go into these businesses, and he would put the whole thing up and present the thing, and it was just done so beautifully. And I just had to sit there and watch him. And I was getting credit for this guy's work, right? So after the year was up, because it was only a year program, I get out, and now I've got this thing on my resume that I'm an IT specialist, And so I get a job with Hewlett Packard in Winnipeg. They're known for printers, but they're a high-tech company. And I was actually hired on to be the executive assistant to the branch manager, because I had these information technology skills. Like, I could do the word processing, I could do all the stuff that he needed done. So about a year later, Hewlett Packard will have a job opening up in Edmonton in their IT department. So I'm like, oh, what the heck, I'll apply. I get the job. So I go to Edmonton, and I start working in the IT department. So 1990 rolls around, and this is when the internet came live in 1990, Okay, so there was no internet. Back then it was just IT. People were using computers, but there was nothing really talking, like the computers weren't talking to each other, right? If you needed a file on one computer, you stuck it on a disk and you ran over to the other computer. Like it was just still kind of archaic back then. But all of a sudden the internet was born in front of me. This is version 1 of the internet, which was just static pages where, you know, you could, like a billboard, you know, online, you could go and you could read stuff, but there was no interaction. It was just stuff online that was available to us. Yes.
There was no Windows. That was the difference.
Yeah.
It was all DOS.
Yes.
Now it's Windows.
It was DOS, exactly. But then when the internet came up, they did have browsers and you could go and check different websites and stuff, but there was no social interaction going on. It was just emails. You could send an email, send, and then send back, reply, but no interaction, no social web. Okay, so that was in 1990. So I saw the web being born in front of my eyes. Now I'm going to fast forward about 10 years because, of course, I meet my husband, my first husband I was talking about, in Edmonton. We get married. We spent a few years in Winnipeg. I had a couple of kids here, but then my husband wanted to go back to Quebec. So he was from Quebec. So we went back to Quebec, and I spent a year at home with the kids and loved it. I mean, I was working full time. I had these 2 kids when I was in Winnipeg. So now I'm at home with my 2 kids, and I'm just loving it, being at home with my kids. So after a year, my husband's like, it'd be good that you get a job. So I started looking for something I could do from home, and I found something I could do from home. It was a network marketing company, and the fellow who led me to the Lord that I was telling you about earlier.
This is the quickest way to clear.
He was a Christian. He was a born again Christian, but he was the leader in this company, this network marketing company, and he was an engineer. He was super smart, and he had put a whole system in place where I could do this business online using Web 2.0. This is when the Web 2.0 came, where we could interact with people online. So I started building my business online. I didn't have to go anywhere. When my kids were sleeping at night or in the morning, whatever, I would do my business around my kids, around my family schedule. And yeah, so it was awesome. It was great, and I was learning lots of stuff about the Web 2.0. And then 2006, like I said, I got born again by this leader in my business who led me to the Lord. And then in 2009, the MLM business I was working for stopped operating in Canada. So my business halted like that. All of a sudden, screeching halt. No more business. No more money coming in. I'm like, and I was doing pretty good in this business. We had some bonus cars and some trips and things like that. It was going well, but now I have nothing. So this is in 2009. So I'm like, okay, I learned a lot of stuff about the web. I learned how to build the business online. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I can offer this service to other people, right? So I started a social media consulting business. And so I started doing this from home, and that was back in 2010. So I would say about right around that time, I was spending a lot of time online, and I saw this thing called Bitcoin come in front of my computer. And I started learning about it, reading up on it, what it was. And it was, you guys remember in 2008, we had that financial crash, right, in 2008. And it hit the States worse than us, but still, we had this recession, I guess you could say, in 2008. So in 2009, Bitcoin came out, and the purpose of the Bitcoin was, it was right after the financial collapse, and it was a concept. It was actually created so people could have control of their own money, and not have to worry about going through the banks and government and that. So it was people taking control of their own money. And I remember reading this, going, "Wow, this is really interesting."
Yeah.
But I didn't go further than that because it was very complex back then.
It still is.
It still is, but it's, yeah. So, okay, so then fast forward now, so that was 2010, now fast forward. So my husband and I split up in 2014. He told me to go, so I left. And I'm like, okay, God, where are you bringing me? And I ended up going to Sherbrooke in 2018. He ended up bringing me to Sherbrooke. And I was doing my business there, and there was a lady that had offered to pay me for my services in crypto. And I said, oh, okay, sure, you can open me an account, pay me in crypto. I didn't pay too much attention to it at the time, but I knew about it because I'm thinking back, and back then when I saw Bitcoin, it was at 10 cents. One Bitcoin was worth 10 cents. Well, in 2018, now that one Bitcoin was worth $6,000. So I'm like, okay, I
After
maybe should
56
learn more
past, I
about
wasn't
this,
prepared.
right? And just so you know, today those one Bitcoin is worth 70,000. Okay, so you can see how it's just going
After
up and up
56
and up.
past, I
Right?
wasn't prepared.
Very volatile, but it's going, it's going in that direction. And you'll understand why here in a minute. So, anyways, all that to say that 2018, she pays me in crypto. And by the way, 2018 is the year that I meet Sylvain. Okay, and there's a reason for all of this. I can see as I was putting this together, I'm going, okay, I'm seeing where God is going with all this stuff. So I meet my second husband. I didn't know him yet to be my husband. It took 7 months before God showed me he was going to be my husband, because Sylvain, that's a whole other story. But anyways, that's for another time. So Web 3.0, which I'm going to call the cryptocurrency world, and this whole new concept of crypto, digital currency and all that. This is Web 3.0. You may have heard of blockchain, you might have heard the term Bitcoin. It's all the same. It's now with this third version of the internet, okay? And so this is where I got introduced really to this third version of the internet now in 2018. So 2020 rolls around and we're hit with COVID, right? COVID comes March 2020.
Yeah.
In May, Sylvia and I got married in May 2020. In July, my social media consulting business comes to a screeching halt again, okay? Because now with COVID, everything shuts down. The big client that I had didn't need me anymore because of COVID. And so I'm like, okay. But by this time, I'd been in the crypto world for 2 years, so I didn't have any more money coming in from my business. But now I have this money coming in with crypto, okay, that I had been in for 2 years now. So I can see how God was providing for our needs now with crypto. And since 2020, God has been providing. That's how we live. We live with crypto. That's been almost 4 years now. So in 2021, though, God supernaturally put these two books in front of me. Actually, there was a man in Quebec that I had met one time at some conference somewhere, and we had exchanged email addresses. And one day he just sent me a message and said, "Hey, Lisa, I've got these two books and I want to give them to you because you're English." He didn't know very many English people in Quebec, so he wanted to send them to me. So in 2021, he sent me these two books. And they're from David Wilkerson, and he's a modern day prophet. He's actually the guy who created Teen Challenge, okay? So one of them is called America Last Call on the Brink of Financial Holocaust, and the other one is God's Plan for the Coming Depression, okay? Now this man had a vision back in 1975, okay, that is really coming to pass in the days that we're in right now. So that's crazy. I mean, this guy had this vision in 1975. If you ever can get your hands on the book, or even you can go to YouTube and just type in David Wilkerson, The Vision, and you'll hear it on YouTube. But it is so close to what we're living right now. It's amazing. So, anyways, having said that, I wanted to share something with you guys, because with these two books, God made it very clear to me that this crypto stuff was not where I was supposed to put my trust. Okay? And not only that, that eventually, this was another book that I got, Marking the Masses. Okay? If you know what the Bible says in the book of Revelation, the last chapter, it talks about the mark of the beast. It talks about a one world government, a one world religion, a one world economy. Now this is all starting to make sense to me. Okay, I get it. This crypto is going to become the mark of the beast. But how it was all going to come together, I didn't know. But I mean, God was slowly showing me all these things. So what I want to do is, yes, this is the video we're going to listen to. It's the truth about crypto. And how many of you have ever, or maybe have not heard about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or digital currency?
Yeah.
You, Bonnie, you've never heard of it? Ever? Anybody else? Never ever hear about it?
No.
Margaret? Okay. So basically, it's just digital currency. So we now have what we call fiat currency, right? Which is paper money that we can use.
Yes.
eventually we're not going to have, with this one world government, one world religion, one world economy, we need to have something that is global, that we can still transact with, but that is everyone has it in the world. Like, how would that, when you read the book of Revelation, you can't fathom, how is that going to happen? How is that going to happen? That's why there's been all these people that have hypothetically have said this and that and the other thing. But now we see it right before our eyes. So we're going to watch this video. It's about 30 minutes. And then if we have any questions, if we have time, we'll do that.
Changing. Do you recognize it? Are you in accordance with that expectation though? I've spoken about this like a few times in different videos. But as things continue to escalate, and the more acceptance it receives in the world, the more this subject needs to be broken down and understood. This is one very big agenda going on in the world right now, and most people are not prepared for it. There is a lot that surrounds this subject, and it's very important to have a solid footing on it, because if you don't, it will have dire consequences. On one hand, not understanding will have you severely left behind and vulnerable to the changes that the world has in store. And on the other hand, you may accept it too much and get trapped in their bait of bringing you in to their new world order. This is a subject that needs some serious review, and unfortunately, there aren't enough people, even in the truth community, that really share the truth about this new currency and economic system. It's actually unfortunate that most people in the truth community only see the benefits and are not in tune with where this whole agenda is actually leading us. When I heard about it over 8 years ago, I was very confident about it for two reasons. The number one reason being that I fully believe in Bible prophecy. And number two, after the Great Recession of 2008, I knew that the United States dollar was going to have a very short lifespan based on all the money printing they were doing. Bitcoin was the obvious answer to both of those topics, and I had instant conviction. It's this conviction and understanding that I want to provide today, in hopes that it keeps people awake, aware, and alert. It's time to understand Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies away from mainstream media and the rest that are just thinking about money, wealth, and prosperity. It's time to understand the full agenda. Let's begin. Okay, so it's kind of hard to know where to begin when discussing this topic. I have a very specific mindset that I hold on to when I talk to people in person about this. For the most part, I really have two different audiences that I present this information to. We have the one group that are saved and are preparing for Yahshua, and then the second group are the unsaved that I'm just praying for. In the beginning of this, I will be presenting the information to both of the audiences, and in the end, I will show you where the break in the information and advice actually is. Now first, what is Bitcoin? Without all that technical jargon and unneeded information, all Bitcoin is a digital currency that is able to go from peer to peer, business to business, peer to business, business to peer, without the need for a bank or third party. All that means is that this money can be exchanged without the need of a third party. Now, it's completely digital, meaning that it's never physically held. It can be used worldwide, so there is no need to worry about currency costs between different nations. Also very important, the technology blockchain that it's used on provides a digital ledger that allows every transaction to be tracked and documented. So basically, what we have here is a global currency, completely digital, never physically held, that has a limited quantity that can never be increased, very much like gold, completely opposite of fiat money like the dollar, euro, and the yuan. It eliminates the need for third parties like banks. It eliminates currency risk, and all activity is documented and able to be tracked. Now, if you have followed this channel, I've spoken many times about the fact that the dollar and all other fiat currencies around the world are pretty much dead. The central bank system of money printing is done. It's at its final leg. I will not waste time re-explaining this. If you do not understand or agree, go back to my other videos that explain this in depth. Just jumping to the point, very simply, this financial system has been propped up too long by massive money printing, which has created massive bubbles, which will eventually pop. We actually just received word last week from the Fed that it will happen definitely by 2023 when they raise rates. So you should definitely expect it sooner than what the timeline is that they have given. It can happen in a number of different ways, but rest assured the bubble will pop and the United States dollar will implode, creating hyperinflation. The dollar implosion will collapse the global financial system, and from this there will be a major global problem. Again, if this information is new to you, I have made multiple videos that can get you up to speed, but this is not what this video is about. The point to understand is that there is a major problem with our current economic system worldwide. There are too many people walking around without this understanding. Our economic system is dead, but it has not come into full reality yet because we are being primed to accept the new system. And that's where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies come in. Digital currencies will be the foundation of the new world that will be created after the collapse. There are many benefits that are easily seen, like the ones I mentioned earlier. Now, currently, the way things are moving now, there are other countries moving to create their own national digital currency. For instance, China has already launched theirs and has begun introducing it into their system, just not with full acceptance. And we now have the United States admitting that they will be working on a digital dollar as well. Understand, if there is nothing wrong with our money, there will be no reason for them to be making this transition. Now for me, when I'm analyzing things, I do not pay attention to the CBDCs, which stands for Central Bank Digital Currencies. Let me explain why. In understanding crypto, you can't look at things in terms of today, but tomorrow. You must look at what the digital currencies were purposed for and what they are going to replace. How long did the typewriter last after the invention of computers? How many people today have hardwired landline phones in their home since the implementation of the cell phone? Matter of fact, most people, excluding seniors, don't even have landlines in their homes. The point is, as technology improves and becomes more widely accepted, we see that the old tools that were used become obsolete and are replaced. So while always holding on to that understanding, when understanding crypto, you should have in your mind that things will change and certain things will be replaced. That starts with banks. Understand there's no reason for banks in a cryptocurrency economic system. Like I said, everything is peer-to-peer, business to business, direct to consumer. Very similar to how everything else is working. Think about it. Why is streaming so important today? Because they are cutting out the middlemen and companies are going direct to consumer. This will be the same with our money. When analyzing what exactly the future of cryptocurrencies will be, I guess the most important thing to understand is what the future is that they want to create. Let's just go over some of the characteristics. First thing for sure, they want a global currency, a worldwide currency that is accepted all over the world that not one country controls and not one country can manipulate. Everything in the world will be valued the same by the same measurement of value. They want something finite, like gold, that cannot be manipulated when the powers that be call for it. That's why Bitcoin is so favorable, because there's a maximum amount of Bitcoin that can ever be distributed. And the amount of the coins made available goes according to a specific time schedule. I think it's a maximum of 21 million coins or something like that that will ever be created, and that is until the year 2140. There is currently only 19 million in circulation right now, so there's about 2 million left. And as the system starts getting implemented, you can see why they're cracking down on Bitcoin mining and all over the world. But understanding all that explains why Bitcoin is real and currencies like Dogecoin are not. Dogecoin is a joke and a play on those who don't understand cryptocurrencies. Dogecoin is exactly like our fiat currency system. It's just digital. It's a game of distraction that is being played on the public who doesn't really understand the future that we're headed to. But let me keep going. In the world that they want to create, they want something digital so it can cover all their needs for control. You see, with physical cash, it allows the ability for people to do things without being seen by the governments and authorities. I can hand you cash and nobody would ever know. Today, we are in an ever-growing police state worldwide, where our lives are all followed, monitored, and tracked. If that is news to you, it's time that you wake up. With the cash system, it allows there to be cracks in the system. With cash, not all transactions are logged and noted. Moving to a digital currency system, particularly through the use of blockchain, means every transaction that is done all around the world will be logged. No one can do anything without it being known by the government that's in control of all of us. I mean, just imagine you giving money to the poor. That's logged and noted. You can't even hand $1 to somebody on the street. Taxes are also taken instantly, and government assistance is given on the spot. It brings together the complete system of control. It's the icing on the cake that the world government needs in order to be fully in control of all of its citizens and know everything that's going on. In this system, it's easy to keep people trapped and also very easy to kick them out. They can control the world by controlling our access to our digital wallets. Very similar to how the United States sanctions countries and individuals that don't follow its rules. In this cryptocurrency system, they can control our livelihood by taking away our access if we do not follow their rules. Then you will not be able to buy or sell, which would take away your ability to live. But let me not get ahead of myself. This is a system of control that is being built right around us that the general public doesn't see coming. Now let's get this straight, because this is where people get lost. There are so many people that look at Bitcoin as like a savior of their wealth. They are only looking at it in terms of their personal financial health. And being that they were the first to it before the price or value of it skyrockets, they are all very excited about it all. The thing that should be made clear is that the success of Bitcoin will come at the expense of the failure of the whole world, and there is really no way to understand what that will mean for each of us until it happens. But Bitcoin is not a savior. It is in fact a satanic tool created for enslavement of humanity. The story that we are given about Bitcoin is that some person named Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. He invented Bitcoin, implemented the first blockchain, and thus deployed the first decentralized digital currency. People love Bitcoin because they feel it's decentralized. Decentralized meaning an activity or organization controlled by several local offices or authorities rather than one single one. Basically, not just one governmental body controls Bitcoin. It's not controlled by world governments, and because of this fact, people feel empowered. They feel like the leaders of the world hate Bitcoin because it takes away their power and puts the power back in the hands of the people. That's just false. Let's talk about why. There's so much that goes on with that mindset and way of thinking, but it should not be your way of thinking. People need to really understand the world that they live in. This world system that we are all navigating through today was created by wealthy families that have controlled all industries for almost a century and a half. For over a century since they created the United States Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, they have controlled all aspects of our society. Often when I talk about the debt and the fact that the United States debt is over 28 trillion, a common question is, who do we owe this money to? It's these families that are considered old money that we owe. I made a video about breaking out of the matrix titled, Follow the Money. If you do not understand this information, you must watch that video to understand it in depth. But the world and its resources are run by a very small amount of people. Using their symbolism, they are at the top of their satanic pyramid. They have created the current financial system and world order that we have today. All the fiat money that gets printed by the central banks, they are printing. They are, in fact, the central bankers of the world. Now I say all that to bring things into reality. People actually believe that this world that has been run by these people that are at the top of the pyramid, that have created our current financial system, the creators of our current modern finance, people actually believe that they are being overthrown by an anonymous figure named Satoshi Nakamoto, who is not even a real person and is known by all to be a fictitious name. They believe that those who have held power for centuries are now just letting the power just slip out of their hands because of this anonymous figure. It's completely naive. It goes along with the same thinking people believe that Donald Trump was actually slowing down the New World Order. It just doesn't make sense. People don't really understand the way the world actually works and is structured. But again, this is what people believe, and you will find a majority that are advocates of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies believe this strongly. Make sure you don't get caught up in that confusion and naiveness. Those people are only thinking this way because they feel that they are early to the party. The truth is that Those who control everything would not make a new currency system that has all the features of control that they desire and not control it. I mean, I feel like that should be easy to see. Secondly, let's say for one instant that they did not control Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. They honestly don't even need to, because guess what? They control everything else. They control all the other industries, from food, medical, travel, retail, etc. All major businesses that are staples of the world economy is in their hands. So even if they didn't control the cryptocurrency system, they would have control of it in a very short time, because as we live, we would be giving them our cryptos just to live. The point that I'm making is that you can never take these people out of the equation. This is not a system made by the people for the people. It is the next system that was created by the same people that have been controlling us for centuries. So as the world continues to spread that lie that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are actually giving power back to the people, please do not be naive and follow those lies. They have been printing and destroying the fiat currency system for decades now, specifically so they can herd us into this new system that they've created that provides all the controls that they need and desire. The next part of understanding crypto is viewing it from the right perspective. So many people look at the value of crypto today and put it in perspective to their national currency. Like in the United States, we watch the value of it fluctuate. Right now, it's between 30 and 40K. People get so happy about the price, but that's only because they are looking at it in the mindset of the old system. People look at it from a mindset of how many dollars one Bitcoin would get them. But if you understand Bitcoin, you will understand that that's the wrong view. It should be looked at in the complete opposite way. The higher you see the value of cryptocurrencies go, is not a good thing for the world. It's a horrible thing. The proper view is not how much Bitcoin is gaining in value, but how much the dollar and the other fiat currencies are losing theirs. Now, if you're playing the game and playing around in this false system because you understand it, I'm not saying that there aren't short-term gains to be made. All I'm saying is that the way that everyone views it keeps them from fully understanding what is actually happening. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will not be a system that runs parallel with our fiat currency system. Therefore, looking at it in the terms of dollars is wrong. I follow the value of Bitcoin according to the dollar as a sort of expiring time clock. The higher it goes in value in reference to the United States dollar, the closer we are to seeing an implosion of the United States dollar. People are expecting Bitcoin to hit 100K this year. But for me, I do not see this happening without the dollar collapsing as well. There's no way for a currency to elevate itself in value over the dollar like that without a major correction happening. Third thing you need to understand is that the mainstream is in on it. They just are not telling you. I watch CNBC pretty much every day, and over the years they have steadily progressed their dialogue about Bitcoin. They actually talk about its real purpose, but don't say it in simple ways so that the everyday public would understand. When hearing the media talk about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, listen out for words that talk about its true meaning, like inflation, inflationary pressures, hedging, words like that. You will see that they know exactly what the purpose of owning cryptocurrencies is for today. It is the hedge against the falling fiat currency system.
I'm all for it. I think it's almost irresponsible not to include it. Every treasurer should be going to boards of directors and saying, should we put a small portion of our cash in Bitcoin? It seems to be an interesting way to hedge against the rest of the environment. Nice hedge against fiat currency.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are even getting paid in Bitcoin themselves. They know, and they are just doing their job by speaking about it while not giving away the full story.
Nice hedge against fiat currency.
It's like the masses actually need the media to say, hey, the dollar is going to collapse and everyone needs to buy Bitcoin in order to survive. They're not going to say that. How many times have you actually seen the government prepare us for some hardship? Or go back to the movies with their predictive programming.
About it, okay? First, the stock market would go. Then the economy, boom! The dollar, boom! And then pandemonium in the streets.
How many movies have you seen showing that the government and media does not give the full story because they don't want to cause mass hysteria and panic?
California is going down.
now.
They just got back. God, you sound like a crazy person. The governor just said we're fine now.
The guy's an actor. He's reading a script. When they tell you not to panic, that's when you run.
Seems to me that the worst is over.
They are controlling the narrative, and the only way to do this is by giving out information in small doses, while they use keywords that only those paying attention will understand, or those that do not trust or rely on them to keep them informed will understand as well. Basically, if you are waiting for the media and other trusted outlets to tell you the truth about it, then you're going to lose big. So next question is, why am I telling you about it? And if the dollar is collapsing, isn't Bitcoin something that you should own? This brings me back to where I started this video with when I said I have two audiences that I speak to. Let me first explain the biggest risk of Bitcoin, because if it was really just as simple as hedging against the dollar before financial collapse and being early in your investment before the price rises, then it would be a no-brainer, and of course I would recommend it, just like all the other so-called truthers do. But it's much deeper than that. And this is where discernment must come from. This is why I knew for certain that Bitcoin was going to be in our future. It's found in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verses 16 through 18. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. People love denying the validity of the Bible, but the evidence of its truth keeps getting stronger in our reality today. But yet people still try to write it off and look for other explanations. For me, I knew that in order for this prophecy to be fulfilled, there is no way for it to happen in a system using cash. Paying attention over these years, I have watched them transition us to a cashless system. From cash to checks, from checks to debit cards and credit cards, from debit cards and credit cards to chip cards and mobile payments. There has been a constant progression of conditioning us to not use cash. I mean, in truth, we're at a point where it even looks odd in stores that people even pay with cash. In order for this prophecy of the mark of the beast to be fulfilled, the world would have to be on a different financial system than we are on today. No one being able to buy or sell without the mark could only happen in a cashless system. And being that I saw them destroying our current financial system with exorbitant money printing and debt, when I saw the new currency that was being pushed out, it only made sense to me. Never had any doubts about it. This new financial system will not be about independence and liberation, but actually about slavery and control, but they will make it sound like it's in the best interest of everyone. People make points that because it's decentralized and against the central banking system, that is something for the people. But that's a lie from hell, and not something I could stand for and let it be spread without countering. We should expect worldwide legislation that ties each identity of every citizen in the world to a wallet by the use of biometrics and more likely a chip. But none of this can be seen now in this current world. This all comes after the collapse. You cannot see the new order until the chaos happens first. And with such a big change in the system, we should expect a huge amount of chaos and disorder to the system, so there can be radical change. We already saw how easy it was for the world to work in synchrony when the pandemic happened and everything shut down. That was like a dress rehearsal for the real shift. But I talk about the collapse often enough in other videos. My point is that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will not be the savior of our humanity, but a tool for the mark of the beast. It's a way of fulfilling Bible prophecy. So now that I've gotten that point out of the way, let me explain about my two audiences. For the most part, I do tell people to own cryptocurrencies, but I am more adamant about it with people that are not placing our Father in the position of priority that he should be in. The way I see it is that those that are not aligned with Father need to have some kind of hedge or protection from the coming chaos, so that they can hopefully withstand the first blows. The way I see it is that they may need more time to see the truth and commit to it. For them, owning cryptocurrencies is a way of buying time. That's how I look at it. When the collapse happens, those that are completely unprepared will be very easy walked right into the new system and be forced through desperation and fear. I mean, if you just think about it, Just recently, we see how easy it was for people to take an unknown drug made in less than 6 months. When people are hungry and desperate and without faith, they will do anything. So for me, I have always recommended cryptos to everyone I could talk to, while I also plant the seeds on Father. I have a view of just buying time for people to come to Father. That's really it. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how the collapse will play out, and I'm sure the script that they have written goes beyond my imagination. But I do believe if people have time and get to see that these things we were warning of were true, then hopefully they can find the strength and conviction to do what's right and submit to Father. I talk to my friends about it all the time, and if they are like most people, then it can seem pretty hopeless. They can only see making money and financial opportunity. They refuse to really grasp what I've been saying for years. From the time I have ever told them to buy, I gave them stark warnings, but yet they can only see what they want to see. All I can do is pray for them. People would judge and say, well, that's the devil's money and the devil's system, and we shouldn't have any parts of it. And to those who talk like that, I just tell them to get a physical dollar bill and look what's on the back of it. It's always been the devil. Now, people ask, should believers own Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? That's not something I can answer for you. I'm nobody. All I do is that has shown me and places on my heart. For that answer, you have to do what Father leads you to, and that's the advice I give to believers, my main audience. Now, in reference to Bitcoin and crypto, the overall message that I give to both audiences is the most important one. If you do choose to own crypto, you must understand two things. When the collapse happens, you will only have a very short window to use them. And secondly, you must always be willing to lose them all. Let me say this clearly. This system will lead to the mark of the beast. If you are so attached to money and believe that money is your source, and you can never imagine yourself voluntarily disposing of it or giving it away, then you should not own Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. The future will require you to bear the mark of the beast in order for you to have access to this system. So the truth about Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies is that it is a cashless digital system that enables those that run this world from behind the scenes to have full access and control of every financial transaction in the world. Through blockchain, everything will be logged and notated. Therefore, there will be no way of them not knowing everything, all of our habits and what we do. It's very similar to how things are currently, but they're just getting rid of the cracks and holes. When the system comes online, it will be the major tool of assisting with the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. Though it is a hedge against the fiat currency system, a way of getting rich, but a way of surviving the initial blow to the collapse. This is important. When you look at cryptocurrencies, always tie your view of it with the mark of the beast, and that will help you always keep a sound mind in regards to it all. Always remember that those at the top know. Most of the celebrities, business leaders, government leaders, news anchors, social organizations, etc. Those at the top of the food chain know. This is why most of them have sold out, so they can have access to the system and be one of the haves instead of the have-nots. Because the world will be divided in this way. I should have explained that earlier. You know how they say we have a middle class in this current system? There will not be a middle class in the next system. You will only have the haves and the have-nots. And it should be known that most of the people at the top that will be part of the haves will not be your ally, and they have more than likely pledged allegiance to Satan already, just to be there. Stop focusing on the news and what they report on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Stop listening to people like Elon Musk or Mark Cuban. Don't buy into any of those headlines. If you know what the future is, then you don't have to be swayed by the day-to-day movements and headlines. Everyone needs to make sure that they stay vigilant and sober-minded. You can't look at the world through selfish eyes that only wants to see what you desire. You must look at the world in truth and understand that this world is being run by Satanists who have pledged allegiance to Satan to allow him to be worshipped by the world. Everything we are seeing, including Bitcoin, is in alignment with that. Everyone needs to make a choice on what's important to them and where they stand with things. I mean, it's plain as day to see that they are pushing a whole new system right in our faces. We are being transitioned into something new that they are not preparing us for. The main question for you is, will you be led like cattle to slaughter, or will you wake up and recognize that you need to get right with our Father in heaven? This is what Yahshua said. But take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore, and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. That's Luke chapter 21, verses 34 through 36. Remember that. He has warned us. But how many of us will listen and heed his warnings? There's so many that say that they love him, but so little that will actually show this by being obedient to him and listening to his words. This warning is real, and as I showed you in this video, as well with many other videos, the threat against us is real. How long will you stay asleep and let the world take advantage of you? It's time to wake up and be counted amongst the believers of this world. We will inherit this earth, and we do not need to do this by force or through our own might or through our own strength. We just need to detach from the evil one and be set free through the blood of Yahshua. We must allow him room to grow in our lives. He is our only option, and only through him can we escape all these things. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will not be your savior. Do not follow anyone that teaches you that they will be. Stop trying to come up strong in this current world system, and start preparing to not be taken advantage by the one that is coming. If you stay strong and devoted to our Father, you will be fine. So the only question is, what are you going to do? Make sure the answer is, you will fully submit to our Father in heaven through belief in his Son, Yahshua, and you will be redeemed. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like and share this video with others. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday.
This place today, and I know that here, yes, physically today, but I mean in general, to share this with people, because we're not hearing about this in churches. Christians aren't talking about end times, but it's right blatantly in our faces. I'm seeing it every day because I'm working in the crypto world. But God put me here for a reason. Like I said, we're all here for a reason, for such a time as this, and this is what he's given me and what he showed me. And so next week I will be back to share more stuff. I just pray, I ask the Lord to show me what I needed to show today. Next week I don't know what it is yet. It's going to be along the lines of what's going on in the world right now, of course. But does anybody have any questions based on what they heard? Yeah.
When the Bitcoins came out, I tried to buy them, but it's so confusing. How do you buy them?
Yeah.
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, it is complicated. It's not super easy to get them. I have been probably for 3 years now, 2 years, whatever. I've been helping a lot of people through that process, people all over the world. God actually put a man who has an international ministry on my path, and so a lot of people have come through him that I've helped. People with most of these people have a lot of money, and they want to put it somewhere and to hedge against the fiat currency that's going to collapse. It is going to. By the way, he mentioned something. When COVID hit, U.S. had $17 trillion. They were $17 trillion in debt. That was in 2020. They are now at $35 trillion in debt. They've doubled their debt in 4 years since COVID. All by design. It's all part of the plan. They want to implode the dollar. They want to collapse the system. It is all for a purpose, and that is to take us into the New World Order, the Great Reset. I don't know if you guys have heard, and maybe we'll talk about this more next week. Klaus Schwab, the New World Economic Forum, they are the vehicle the enemy is using to bring in that new system, and they call it the Great Reset. But they're making it look really beautiful on the outside, you know, they're going to be the solution to all our problems. No, it's a false peace that they want to bring us, is what they're doing. But this great reset is going to happen after, like he said, a major economic collapse. When the world is in chaos and people have no idea. Look, a lot of you guys have no idea. Well, this could happen any day. Any day that dollar can collapse. And when it happens, everything will be shut down. Actually, they're talking, World Economic Forum in January 2024, just a couple months ago, were talking about a cyber attack. They're getting people ready for this cyber attack. There's different places in the world that have had these blackouts already. They're just testing. They're putting everything in place. They're going to black out the whole world at one point, and that, how long it's going to last, maybe, I figure, and this is another thing that maybe I'll have a chance to share. There was a man back in 1984, interesting, 1984. Do you remember the book George Orwell? The book 1984? Me and Giselle read it in high school. Why they had us read this book, and it was about a totalitarian government, a one world government. This is a book I read when I was in high school.
Well, you should give it to me.
George Orwell was the author of the book. It was called 1984. Anyways, this man, this Catholic man, had a dream back in the 1980s, early 80s, I think it was 84 or maybe 81. He was Catholic, never read a Bible in his life, and he had a dream about end times that lasted the whole night. He woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, knew he needed to find a Bible, and he flipped the book to the back, read just the book of Revelation, and it was really in line with his dream. And then he went back to sleep, and he kept dreaming during that night. But all that to say that this man's dream, he saw a blackout. The whole world was in a blackout for 2 weeks. And this seems to make sense because that would be just enough time for people to be panicking, a chaos. Can you imagine? Everything goes black for 2 weeks worldwide. When they put that switch back on, because the switch, that's all it is. It's a switch. Everything is in place, right? They just need to flick a switch. When they flip that switch, do you think people won't be running into their solution?
That's right.
Absolutely. No question. So that's why it's important to talk about these things, because it's all happening. And this is not conspiracy theory. This is Bible. We have the prophecy. And when I met Sylvia, the very first thing he said, you know, the first verse in the Bible, of the Revelation, where it says, "Blessed are those who read this book." Like, why does he say that? Because God wants us to know what the end time prophecy is all about. And we don't talk about it. We don't teach on it. No. We don't want to disturb people. Like, come on, we got to prepare. This is not to scare people. This video is to prepare us. And God already told us about it. So we need to talk about it. Right?
So do you think this is going to happen while we're still here before we're raptured?
This is a good question. And it's funny because in this dream that this man had, by the way, this man was Catholic and he had this dream, and then 2 weeks later got born again. He got born again. And it was funny because when I went during COVID, I had listened to this guy in 2015. I fell on his dream. Right when God was starting to show me end times were in front of me, like that's when I don't know, God put that dream in front of me. When COVID began, a good friend of mine, a sister in Christ, sent me the dream, said, "Lisa, you gotta listen to this dream." And I'm going, hey, I already listened to this in 2015, but I went back and listened to it again now that COVID started. And I listened to it at least once a year since then. I've listened to it a half dozen times. If you guys are interested in listening to that dream, it's Ken Peters is his name. Ken Peters, go to YouTube, type in Ken Peters End Time Dream. It's about 2 hours long, but it's worth the listen. And anyways, all that to say that in his dream, this man, when he saw the blackout, when everything came back online, there were people missing. They didn't know where they went. So, I mean, it's a dream, right? It's just a guy's dream. But I'm just saying, listen to his dream. And I'm telling you, you can literally connect the dots with what's going on right now and with what you heard today. Totally. And think back, 1981, there was no internet, there was no personal computers, so even things that he said in his dream, you couldn't even understand it back then. But now we can.
Ken Peters what?
Ken Peters, it's End Times Prophecy. You'll find a 2-hour video on Prophecy Club, I think is what it's called.
Lisa, can I just mention that I had listened to a few of where he was a guest speaker, and some had removed that part about the people missing. So there's a particular one where he, because I don't know if some people had removed that part for.
Yeah, just so you know, on YouTube is part of the people at the top, right? So they're taking videos off YouTube. They're cutting things out of certain videos on YouTube where there's truth. They're doing that, and I know that
Maybe Lisa, we could send it to Michelle, the one where he goes in detail about the people missing. Like, you know.
Collier has a question.
Who does?
Collier, go ahead, Collier.
More of an answer, if anything. For
sorry.
those who don't know my background, I come from technology. I built an entire shopping platform from scratch for the last 2 years. And Jesus just recently said, shut it all down. And I shut it down. So cryptocurrency and everything, this is right up my alley because I just happen to be a scripter, programmer, been down all those avenues, been playing with computer building. I'm barely running off of just half a screen and 2 circuit boards, a battery, and a hydro socket. But it all makes sense. Batteries have an expiry date on them for those that don't know. And if you leave them off too long, they corrode. You can't just leave a flashlight off long term. You have to fully drain it and recharge. I think it's like once every quarter of a year. For the rechargeable ones. The non-rechargeable ones, you have to use them right away because they will corrode. That's the whole thing is with I wasn't aware of this, by the way, with how this is going down with cryptocurrency being used for the devil, because I'm only on I'm a young pup. I'm only on, I think I'm on day 4 now. I think Michelle knows. Sunday was the official time I've gotten awoken. And I was literally dipped in the hot tub head first there. But with everything that's going on, this all makes sense because with all the way this, like, I think that the cryptocurrency, just as fast as we move to credit cards, is as fast as cryptocurrency. It is happening right now. Because with this whole computer system, like when I was born, we had GameCubes, and before that was the NES and everything. And the internet was created by the US military and the Carolina Chapel Hill. And those are the people that are in control of the cryptocurrency, by the way, and beyond. It was originally quote unquote used for military stuff, but then gave to the public. No, I think the devil has been doing that to reuse that. I like how Jesus will take something on a chessboard and things will be moved, and then he turns it into an instant checkmate every time. But this is no joke. I want to make this very clear that when Jesus does the rapture, things are going to change and things are going to become very sour and things are going to go straight south. This is all preparing for that. But I think we're going to see the transition. I don't think we'll see the full transition. I think this is just preparing for what's going to happen when there's no Christians, no churches left. Like when God raptures us, there's just going to be, the very limited remainder. And that's when things are going to speed run. They're going to speed run everything south at that point, but they are still moving it now because they know they don't have a second to waste. The devil isn't going to go down quiet. The devil is going to go down screaming, and he's going to go down fighting because he wants to be his own God, and he wants to take as many people with him. And I think that's just how it's going to have to be.
Thank you. That's great, Collier. You were born for such a time as this too. And you woke up at the right moment.
Exactly.
I say this to people. I think I'm stealing this from Daryl, but Jesus wrecked me daily because that is how I'm going to learn.
Amen.
Thank you. So I'll stop the recording now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions before we move on? Next week we'll be talking more too, but go ahead.
No, it's like introducing then the Antichrist will come on board and say that he's the answer to everything.
So just something for you guys to